Hello, everyone, and welcome again to another weekly edition. Cool, cool, cool,
Ooh,
cool.
ooh,
Hello, Vera. Cool. Uh,
ooh.
Hello, another weekly edition of Paloma's AMA, and this is our special AMA for the flock and the nest. So, I want to say welcome. Today is July 13th, and we are updating the flock on the status of Paloma. With me is Vera, who is head of product at Volume, and we are Volume, the company behind Paloma. My name is Tarek, and it's a pleasure to be here. How are you doing today, Vera?
I am doing great.
Great.
Or should I say, cool?
Cool. That's right. Cool. I actually landed into a Goblin. There's a NFT community called Goblins, and all they do on their AMA is go "Arr, arr, arr." And I'm like, doing some coups are not bad, okay? We at least speak English. But yes, so cool, cool. Is your coup a high pitched coup or low? I think my coup should be, king pigeon, cool, cool. All
You know
right.
what? I haven't really figured that out, but yes,
You're practicing the
might work.
ranges. Yeah, exactly. All right. So we're here because first of all, we're here for the community. So as we get started, we'd like to say thank you very much to the community that has been here, folks who accidentally discovered Paloma from all over the world. We have folks from Korea. We have folks from Indonesia. We have our Turkish pigeons. Shout out to our Turkish pigeons. We have our Russian pigeons. Da, whoo, da. Shout out to our Russian pigeons. They just stumbled upon this project and sort of accelerated a lot of the progress that we've had. And we want to thank you all for being here. Especially thank you for those members who have stayed here without any promise of reward. So you'll hear me say that there are no rewards, and I will repeat, there are no incentives and rewards for this blockchain testnet. We just don't want testnet farmers and incentive farmers with us. We need folks who are committed to the project, who really seriously are interested in it, and who are willing to do what it takes. In the words of my acting teacher, walk over hot coals and broken glass to get to mainnet. And if you are with us, you want to fly with us. That is what's required on this journey. And we hope that we will fly to wonderful adventures together. But yes, there are no promises, no incentives, no rewards, just pure pigeon family nesting and growing of the flock. So today, we want to share good news because for all this shared suffering and agony of DevOps hell, there should be something that comes for it. And what we want to say is because of the feedback and the interactions with the initial TestNet 6, today we'd like to talk about what we're going to do for TestNet 7. And we're going to do some cool things, and that will require the flock to participate. So, what we're going to do is talk a little bit about what's coming in TestNet 7. We've not written a white paper. There is no white paper. So there's not a lot of marketing material. But we owe the pigeons who are with us some understanding of what's going on. So we're going to talk about the new release. And let's just center ourselves back to core. Um, what the hell is Paloma, and why the hell does it exist? So Paloma is a Cosmos SDK chain, and we at Volume have been working on Cosmos SDK chains for the last 2 years. We started off supporting the Cosmos ecosystem's launch of Stargate, which was supposed to launch the Interblockchain Protocol, IBC. And IBC launched with us on Stargate. That was summer of 2020. And then in 2021, we helped launch Sommelier Finance. So if you go to sommelier.finance, you see their blockchain. And really, it's built on the initial project called Peggy. So a lot of projects are built on Peggy. Umi, the guys of Umi, shout out to Umi. The guys at Axelar, shout out to Axelar. The guys and the rock stars at a number of other projects, even SIF Chain is built on, some derivation of Peggy. Peggy was essentially upgraded to Gravity. And what does Peggy and Gravity do? They allow Cosmos SDK chains to communicate with the Ethereum blockchain. And so Paloma is an advancement on these pioneers and initial effort. Paloma wants to talk to any blockchain, not just Ethereum, and Paloma wants to make it permissionless. So think of Paloma as, if Juno and Gravity had a baby. And if you don't know who Juno is the Cosmwasm chain that was launched by the community, a great, amazing team, and congrats to Juno. So think of if Juno and Gravity had a baby, right? And that's so weird to think of that. But anyway, Juno and Gravity had a baby. And if they had a baby, we think it would be a little bird called Paloma, right? So you can think of Paloma as trying to aspire to permissionless cross-chain communications, right? The validator set on Paloma will allow anyone to send up a chain to governance and allow anyone to use or, essentially create contracts that can run on Paloma and communicate and control contracts on any other blockchain, not just Ethereum, but any other blockchain. And so we want to deliver on that promise. And so we are progressing towards that promise by, continuously iterating. So what we did, a lot of folks were like, how are you different? Well, we really had Jahan Trembach. So Jahan Trembach, who was the founder of Althea, shout out to Jahan, and also the lead developer on Gravity, on Peggy for Cosmos. We went to Jahan and said, hey, Jahan, what if we started, essentially a pure Go version of Gravity and built it so that it was cross-chain arbitrary logic contract calls at the beginning. So when we built Gravity, or when Gravity was launched, it was really built as a bridge. So, for folks who don't know, bridges are essentially, sort of, you could think of them as keys that secure the assets that will exist on other chains. And so the Peggy bridge was really meant as a way to create Cosmos assets in Ethereum and then create Ethereum assets in the Cosmos. And it works. It's great. Again, you can see success of that in SwiftChain and also Axelar. Any of you who are in this community who use Axelar to trade on Osmosis, holla. We essentially use Axelar's Gravity bridge as a way to take an asset, make sure it exists on Osmosis, and then transfer that asset off of Osmosis or into Osmosis onto Ethereum. So when I need to trade, my Atom/Ethereum pairs or Atom USDC pairs, I'll use Axelar. But so Gravity is really great at bridging and using the validator set of security for bridging. But what we were really interested in is, let's talk about arbitrary logic contract calls, right? And what's an arbitrary logic call? That's like, hey, I'm just going to send a bunch of information to you, okay? And when you get it, you just send it to that contract on Ethereum, and it will know what to do with the information. And so arbitrary logic is essentially, a glob, a message glob that goes, between chains. And what Paloma wants to say is, hey, we want to be really good at sending that glob from the Cosmos to Ethereum and to other chains. And we have other chains coming. We'll talk about that later. But first, I just, again, want to come with that backstory. And so the arbitrary logic call will require that essentially there are three pieces in this model. There are three pieces to this infrastructure. The first piece is the Cosmos SDK chain, Paloma. The second piece is the Cosmos SDK's contract on Ethereum that it runs or it controls. That contract essentially will then be able to send messages to other contracts. And it is that contract we call Compass EVM. If you go into the Paloma, repo, you'll see we have Pigeon and Compass EVM. And for all you pigeons on Paloma who've been running the Pigeon software, you've been running a second piece of this called Pigeon. And Pigeon is the relayer software, right? So you have the blockchain, which is the ledger, and then you have the relayer software, which takes the arbitrary message, the contract call, and the arbitrary contract call plus other data plus gas, wraps it in a message and then sends it to our Compass EVM. And then when you send that to our EVM, essentially the validator set on Paloma, the validators, all you pigeons who've been fighting for validator set, ranking, You are the ones who have to come to consensus that the message was delivered. But not any message gets delivered. Only messages authorized by at least 2/3 of the power of the validator set. So we're going to talk about some changes, but I wanted to talk through some infrastructure design here because we haven't like if you go to palomachain.com website, you don't see a lot of documentation. So we are changing our narrative more to talk about this technical documentation because now that we're going live and mainnet looks to be coming sooner rather than later, given the speed and pace of the network stabilizing on testnet, we want to start talking about these things. So before I go, then I've been talking a lot. Vera, any questions on what I've shared so far? Any thoughts that we've had, and am I heading in the right direction, or am I just talking? Am I just cooing at the wind? Does this make sense?
Well, I think Compass is guiding you to the right direction.
Okay, there you
This all
go.
makes sense.
I like that.
And that's why, no, I think you're heading in the right direction. This all makes sense to me. No further questions.
All right. Okay. So I'll continue. All right. So, and of course, anybody in the community, if you have any questions while we're talking, please jump in. You can raise a hand, let us know, and we'll be glad to answer. Of course, this will be transcribed and it'll be on YouTube, so folks can review it and check it out again. Now, okay. So now we talk about these three pieces, right? You have the blockchain, you have the pigeon, and you have the Compass EVM. What we want to do, and if you're a pigeon, what you want to happen is you want folks to be able to allow the Compass EVM or Paloma blockchain to send messages to your contract or any other contracts. Let's say Ethereum for now on mainnet. And what this would look like is we'll give you a use case. So there's an app called Callisto. You can go to it now, callisto.finance. And what callisto.finance does is it automatically chases yield on Curve and Curve on Ethereum mainnet. So you think Curve has a bunch of pools and it chases the stablecoin pools. So think Curve has a bunch of stablecoin pools that change in yield as markets change. And you as a liquidity provider want to be able to move between pools automatically. And for the first, let's make it very basic, simple example. Bob, who is a liquidity provider on Curve, wants to be able to move between stablecoin pool 1 and stablecoin pool 2 on Curve, just because yields have gone from 0 to 10% or 0 to 1%, the way we're going, on some certain time period. Now, in this moment, for Bob to be able to experience it, he might have to ask Jill, who runs Callisto, say, hey, Jill, could you please move my funds from stablecoin pool 1 to stablecoin pool 2? And Jill says, yeah, I'll move it for you. I got you, bro. But how does Bob trust that Jill is not going to simply take his money and run away with it to Cancun? So Bob essentially has to trust Jill as a custodian, right? And of course, Bob doesn't want to trust Jill as a custodian because Bob has $1 billion that he needs to move. He needs to be able to trust somebody who will not run away with his cash. Now, Bob has lots of different options in the market. Bob could use Gelato. That's we love the Gelato team. Shout out to Gelato. Bob could say, hey, listen, you know what? I'll ask Gelato to move my money for it. Bob could say, hey, I could use, Keeper, network.keeper, Keeper to move my money for me. There's a great team over at Keeper. Shout out to the Keeper team. And they're all run on the Ethereum mainnet. But Bob has a problem. What if the prices or the yields change after the first move? So say in time 1, yields move from stablecoin 1 to stablecoin 2 from 0 to 10. But in time 2, yields move from 10 to 20 in stablecoin 1. How does Bob move the funds back? He needs to go back and ask Jill to send his messages through the Keeper or Gelato. He has to go back because state is not stored in Ethereum. There's no way to know what happened, how did time progress? What was the state change? Bob needs the pigeons. Bob needs the flock. So Bob goes out and calls, coo, 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 coo. And then suddenly he hears a flapping of wings and sees a dark cloud descending of 175 pigeons, all in different colors and sizes, flapping their wings vigorously, saying, coo, coo. Of course, Bob doesn't know what the fuck they're talking about because he doesn't speak coo, but they just say coo. And Bob says, great, well, can I give you my key? And they say, coo, coo. And Bob says, this is ridiculous. You pigeons are idiots. Just do what you have to do. And what the pigeons do is the pigeons will take the message to the Compass EVM, which is its guide. And Bob sends the message to Paloma and says, move my funds. And Paloma says, great. The pigeons will send a message to Compass. The Compass will then essentially send the funds to Jill's Callisto program and move the funds on behalf of Bob from stablecoin pool 1 to stablecoin pool 2. And then when prices change, the pigeons are aware of it. And because the pigeons are checking the network on what's happening on Curve and what's happening on Ethereum, the pigeons take the logic and automatically move the funds back from stablecoin 2 to stablecoin 1. And because of course, the pigeons have many other people asking them from this, the pigeons won't steal the money because the pigeons essentially have slashing conditions. If they do not send the correct message and they do not verify that the correct message has been sent, or their messages are not verified at consensus, they will be slashed their stake. So the pigeons have something at stake. What do they have at stake? Grains. Grains. And essentially, pigeons make money. They make grains. They make fees from both transactions as well as subsidies from receiving grain, and as well as for not being a jailed or slash validator. So pigeons want to do good work. Pigeons are incentivized. Pigeons want to get nice and fat and plump and warm and have a nice big warm nest. And so we expect that the incentives for the pigeons not to steal the money is that they are sufficiently diverse. We're going to have, so coming up in 03, we're going to talk about increasing the validator set from 125 to 175. That's a key number for us, and we're going to look at that a little bit. But also the value of the chain, the value of the Paloma chain must be greater than, of course, the message or the value of the message that's being sent. And so the goal is that for Paloma, many pigeons will want to serve as many use cases as possible, because that will create demand for grains. Because how does Bob pay for his transaction routing? He has to use grains. So Bob needs to buy grains to essentially send it to his messages. Now, okay, there's a lot in there. We can go into a lot of different steps about tokenomics. We can break down a lot of steps about the security model, but we're not going to do that in this call. This AMA is to, one, talk about what's coming new on our journey to help Bob use Callisto to automatically move funds without having to trust Jill. Okay, so what are we coming with? If you are a pigeon on Paloma, and first of all, thank you for everybody who's running pigeons and brought up their Ethereum V1 network. That means we know the system works. We're going to have some changes. The changes coming are as follows. We have a new release. This is going to be v.3.0 alpha. So if you are on 0.2.5 pre-alpha, we will now be upgrading to version 0.3.0 alpha. Now, please remember, pigeons, this software is alpha. This is hot release. We have a lot of testing to do, and it's going to be painful. So please get your wings ready. That's what's coming. In it, what we're going to do with this new release, what's included, is we're going to make EVM governance something new. So before, everybody was manually changing their pigeon config.yaml with a hard-coded Ethereum mainnet. What we're going to do now is we're going to do everything by our governance. Okay, so we want to start exercising our governance wings, because Paloma will have a high degree of governance or proposals being run to enable new functionality, new features, and this is our first start to do it on the testnet. So version 0.3.0, let's talk about what it'll contain. Some highlights. It will contain a max validator update to 175. We started off the first testnet 5 with 100, testnet 6 as 125. We're going to be upgrading to 175. So all you pigeons who've been complaining that you're not in the validator set, cool, we hear you. We want you to participate. So here's an incentive. We're going to increase the validator set to 175. We do not know what the impact will be on distributed computing performance. We'll find out. We do not know what the impact will be on cross-logical messaging. We will find out as we continue to hit the testnet. Next thing we're going to announce is EVM governance. That means any Ethereum virtual machine chain will be allowed to be added to Paloma as a new target chain. So think of Paloma as a source, and we are hitting targets. The first target we're going to do is for Ethereum. So we're going to have a governance proposal. So I'll talk about the string of governance proposals. I'm just going to talk about features. And if you want to follow along with me, you can follow along in the change log on Paloma's GitHub on tag 0.30. I'm going to just talk some highlights about these. Also, what are we going to do is we are going to do attestation. Welcome to attestation. What is attestation, Tarek? Well, attestation is you as a pigeon get to verify when a transaction message has been sent. So if a pigeon decides to route a messenger, so think of pigeons as messengers. And if you haven't gotten the analogy, please forgive me. I just keep saying cool, and I hope people get it. Pigeons are messengers. All right, so the validators are messengers. The validator set is a relay set. And so each pigeon will be required to relay and send messages to the Ethereum mainnet. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to have the validators come together and vote that, yes, we're going to do this upgrade. And then the second thing the validators will have to do is vote to essentially deploy a new Ethereum mainnet or a new EVM mainnet. Let me be specific. The EVM mainnet that we're going to deploy will be Ethereum, but we're going to deploy others. So, keep your feathers check. We have a lot of EVMs coming, but we want to first start with EVM mainnet. And this does include L2. So when I say EVM, I mean any other L2, any rollup, anything that allows us to write Solidity code and does actually translation on the EVM virtual machine. All right, now, what we're going to do is we're going to upgrade that. We're going to put this for a vote. And thank you, Chase, for setting up our vote. The proposal will run today and we'll vote for 2 days. If you are a pigeon or a validator and you have grains, get your beaks out and start pecking and vote. We want the vote to pass. Again, our ability to determine the liveness of the network will be determined by how often and how active and how fast this vote reaches quorum. So we've given out some grains. Folks have earned some grains from the faucet. Now it's time to use it to vote. Okay, so once that vote happens, what next we're going to do is we're going to run a proposal to add Ethereum mainnet as an official chain. Currently, we have done a manual attach to mainnet for those who've been running pigeons, but we're going to run it now as a vote. So when we do the upgrade, I think we should reset, but we're going to find out if that's correct. That means reset the Ethereum mainnet. And then we're going to do the vote to essentially upgrade it. So I got to make sure that we don't have 2 Ethereum mainnets allowed. We just have 1. So forgive us. We're still running here. We're going to check on see, make that sure that works. And then the third vote is to deploy Compass. So Compass EVM, so we're going to have a bunch of different compasses, right? So Compass EVM, again, is for any Ethereum virtual machine chain. So yes, there will be a Compass for Solana. There will be a Compass for Avalanche. There will be a Compass for all of the non-EVM chains. There'll be a Compass going for it. So get ready. There may be even a Compass Bitcoin. But first one we're going to launch is Compass EVM. Now, once that is deployed, we'll have a third and final vote that's right. The third vote is for the Compass EVM. And once Compass EVM is deployed, we will be running live tests on Ethereum mainnet to see the flock will send messages. And of course, those messages will have something special. We haven't announced it yet, but we're gonna, once we get this up and running, we're gonna do some cool stuff. And I think if you're a pigeon and if you've been with me so far, you'll be very curious to find out what that is. So, and pigeons are very curious animals. We'll look forward to it. So to recap, upgrade 0.30 going to happen today, 2 days. After the 2 days, the vote is passed. Pigeons will vote with their grains. We will then have a Compass vote for the EVM, and this will be to add Ethereum as a mainnet to the EVM. And pigeons, if you ask me, how do I know that we're going to have an EVM? I'm going to say that what's going to happen is you're going to have to track the block height. You're going to have to match the block height and block hash of the Ethereum nodes of the Ethereum blockchain. So this is why you need to have your Ethereum node running so that you can actually say, hey, when I approve this vote, I actually do sync and I know the block height and I have the correct block height and block hash. And that will come from essentially your Ethereum node returning that block height and block hash. That is the quote unquote checkpoint. Now, next up after that, again, is Compass EVM. That is going to be the EVM or the virtual, that'll be the Ethereum contract. We write it in Viper because we're a Viper shop. It will be the Viper Ethereum contract that will control commands sent to other Ethereum contracts. So if you have an Ethereum contract, you're going to give permission to the Compass EVM to send messages to your contract. And that means you will give permission to the pigeons to send messages on behalf of other folks to your Ethereum contract. And that we think is going to be very interesting. So 3 minutes left to go. I'm just going to pause there for a second. Vera, does that make sense? Did I mess up in anything? Did I miss anything? Any updates that's super critical?
All that makes sense. I think the one thing I'd add is kind of like a 1.a proposal that we would want to put up is to update the Genesis file as well, because we want then we want to do
Correct.
for the
Yeah, we
testnet
want it to be
also
testnet 7.
the number
Correct.
of validators is obviously in the Genesis file. So
Ah,
we'll
correct.
put that up together
Correct.
with the vote for the software upgrade.
Correct. So we have 4 votes. 4 votes. Okay, so I think we will do the software upgrade first, and then we'll upvote to change Genesis thereafter. Is that okay?
I think that works. Yes.
Yeah. And so because the vote to change Genesis can run simultaneously with all the other votes. So we don't have to do them in sequence. We can do them simultaneously. So because these are all like parameter changes as opposed to a full upgrade, right? So because these parameter changes can be declined and approved at will, we're all going to run them simultaneously. So today's Wednesday. So dear pigeons, you should expect by Friday, we should have new votes up for the remaining 3. Change Genesis, size of the validator set, change our chain ID name to Paloma TestNEST6, and then, of course, add Ethereum as a new mainnet chain that will be controlled by the Paloma. And then thirdly, Compass EVM, again, the controlling or the admin contract that will control messages sent to other contracts. Okay, and with that, any questions from our pigeons on the flock? Any questions from the nest? All right. I don't have any questions from the nest. Great. Vera, do you have any questions?
No questions.
I thought you were going to ask Tarek, how can I get more grain? How can I get more grain?
Well, I'm in an unfair position because
you have too much grain.
right now I feel like too much grain.
Yeah.
But yes, I mean, we do have a faucet up for our
Correct.
pigeons that are
Correct.
looking to jump on the.
Correct. But I think also what would be nice is for the things coming after, there may be opportunities to get more grains, and I think we want to release more testnet grains to the community. So it will be very, very cool to wrap more grains distributed into what's coming after this governance trial. All right. To let everybody know, thank you for being here. Governance is for the first time on testnet, so something will go wrong. We will mess something up. This is a test net, so don't be surprised if we mess it up. We have to burn it down, bring it up again. Again, thanks everyone for participating. Thank you to all the pigeons. Coo, for sticking with us. And we look to make sure that you're rewarded for your efforts, your time, and also for your money spent bringing up your nodes and bringing up your validators. All right, that's it for us from the nest. See you all next time.